My new novel, When the Dikes Breached, is a story about the devastating storm surge that flooded the southwestern part of the Netherlands in the night of February 1st, 1953. My protagonist is 16-year-old Klara. She lives on a farm in the province of Zeeland, where the storm hit really hard. She is the oldest, has 8 siblings, and her mother is expecting. Her community is steeped in tradition, ruled by church and social control. And girls like Klara are expected to follow in the traditional role of mother and wife. But Klara writes poetry and longs to travel to faraway places until the storm hits and her whole world turns upside down. I like to read an excerpt of that terrible night when the dike has breached and the water comes rushing into the farm buildings. Father comes running. The water reaches his ankles. Wake everybody and send them upstairs. I don't remember running into the front room. Panic has caught me in its grip while I cry out, water, everybody upstairs. Mother and Oma grab some blankets. I run back into the kitchen where Father tries the telephone. No connection. The lights are still on, but I know that it's only a matter of time before we will lose power. A heaviness I've never felt before presses down on my chest. Is it a dark omen of what's to come? I take a deep breath and follow Father into the mudroom. He opens the door into the barn and water rushes inside. And as he tries to close it, the strong current pushes the door wide open. We climb the stairs to the 2nd floor and join the rest of the family. And when I look back, I see the water flowing down the hall, reaching the 1st thread. The storm blasts and rages. I'm relieved everyone is upstairs. Lisbeth comes out of my room, rubbing her eyes. Why is everyone up here? The downstairs is flooded, Mother answers. She and Oma are sitting on Adrian's bed, wearing coats with blankets tucked around them. And standing at the top of the stairs, I watch the water rushing up to the 2nd thread. Behind me, I hear Oma praying, but I doubt if those words to God will help keep the water at bay. Max, where's Max? Adrian comes to stand beside me and in the next instant rushes down the stairs and sloshes through the water in the hallway. I follow him part way and watch him enter the mudroom. The light on the ceiling casts dancing beams on the rippling water. Wooden shoes float down the hall together with a bucket and Sarah's porcelain doll. My brother wades through the mudroom only to be met by a wave of water, pushing him back. He wavers, but keeps his balance. Max, he hollers, Max! Check the kitchen, I yell. No, Adrian cries, I have to save Max. Don't, Adrian, it's not safe. But he ignores my words. Fighting the current, he disappears into the barn. I run up to the 2nd floor. Father, help us, I cry. We need to save Max. Adrian went looking for him. No, Father yells, it's too dangerous. The water is too strong. The dog will find a dry place, but Adrian won't. He takes off his coat and in a few strides, he crosses the room and runs down the stairs. I'm right behind him, watching him slug along the hallway into the mudroom before he also disappears into the barn. Adrian, Father! But the churning water swallows my voice. I watch in terror as the angry waves submerge the 4th thread, like a sea monster clawing its way up the stairs. Thank you. In 2012, I visited the Flood Museum in the Netherlands, in the province of Zeeland. And I was so struck by the enormity of the disaster and the suffering and the loss. I was haunted by it. The images never left me. So when I came home, I started doing the research and I listened to stories told by survivors in a program called the Oral Project. I tried to immerse myself in the way the people on the islands lived and how they had experienced the flood. And I grappled with the collective belief of the community that the flood was God's punishment for their sins. Hearing about those stories of courage and resilience, I found my protagonist, 16-year-old Klara, who in my novel questions God's ways during this tragic and life-altering disaster. I was 5 years old. A man on a motorcycle came to visit our farm in Friesland, which is another province in the Netherlands. I vividly remember the big motorcycle and that he was dressed in brown leather from his cap to his toes, to his boots. He stayed with us overnight, but I never knew why. And in 2012, when I had so many questions about the flood, I asked my father why this man came to stay with us. And he told me that after the flood, the government encouraged farmers from the whole country to donate a cow. So this farmer from Zeeland selected one of our cows to help rebuild his own dairy cattle. When I started listening to stories from my family about the war, and when I listened to the stories of survivors of the flood in the oral project, I felt compelled to write about it. First of all, my family members were old and their stories would be lost. So I'm so grateful I have some of their stories written. And I also know that I remember stories, but I'm not good with dates. So I think today's youth will make some sense out of history by learning from stories. I think they will stay. We live in dark and scary times now, and I think for young people it's very hard to make sense of this world. But all through history, people have lived through dark and scary times. And I think when we pass on these stories, maybe the young readers can make some sense of this world or can feel that they are not alone, that this has happened before. So I hope that there will be discussions, but they also will make connections. And that's my goal, to make sense of this world, if it's possible. While writing When the Dikes Breached, what was mostly on my mind was climate change, even though this happened in 1953, and the Dutch have always had to battle the sea and the floods. There are so many floods now, and I thought, well, yes, this book is about 1953, but it could as well be today when we see floods in Bangladesh and fires and whatnot. So how the people survived and were resilient, I hope readers will make a connection from the past to the present.